I'm HG Tudor, and welcome to my live stream. This is a recorded version of the live stream that took place following the Depp Heard verdict. So if you want to hear more about my views and how to interpret what Amber Heard said, do listen on. And of course, I turn on to other subject matter. I've caveated this live stream because at the 37 minutes and 30 seconds mark, there was a comms failure, and thus the live stream abruptly cut out. I've decided to allow the live stream to stand because there were very good questions that were asked and my answers to them so that you can listen to them. And then I continue the live stream by starting up a second one, which is already currently available. So this is just to cause you to understand that the reason it ends so abruptly isn't because I was asserting control by withdrawal, having a hissy fit, or throwing a wobbler, but quite simply, the comms decided to give up on me, and therefore it ends abruptly. Now, over to the live stream, and you can hear my views about the Depp Heard verdict through the prism of narcissism and answers to lots of other questions posed by my excellent viewers. Thank you for listening. Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, dependent on where you might be currently in the world. I'm HG Tudor, and this is another impromptu live stream where you can join me to ask questions of me, to understand more about narcissism, and of course, you can join me to be entertained. Whilst those of you are now making your appearance here on the live stream, hello Lilith of Daydream. Of course, you may well be aware of the verdict that was just announced after a little delay in the trial between Depp and Heard. Of course, the judge kind of gave it away, didn't she, after noting that the jury had failed to fill in the maths. And therefore, it was clear that at least one of the parties had succeeded in their claim. I found it rather unusual that the judge made that observation and did so live because it clearly indicated that somebody had at least succeeded with their claim. It's rather strange. One would have thought that it would have been conveyed to the jury and telling them they had to leave the room again, and then perhaps would have to be told about it back in the room, or alternatively, one would have thought that somebody would have checked with them first that it had all been filled in correctly. Anyway, leaving aside the fact that it slightly gave the game away and then meant that we had to wait whilst the relevant news outlets had to engage in fillers as the jury was sent back into their room to do the mathematics. Shortly, of course, following the outcome whereby Johnny Depp has succeeded in his defamation claim with $15 million being awarded to him, and that Amber Heard succeeded with part of her defamation claim that found that Depp defamed Heard, albeit through his attorney, and awarded her $2 million. So Mr. Depp's $13 million to the good. But leaving aside the question of the money, which ultimately may just probably cover his legal fees, from his perspective, of course, it was all about clearing his name as an abuser. Having been labelled as such, that was having a deleterious impact. The hashtag #MeToo movement being hijacked, of course, by narcissists, amongst those who have genuinely suffered at the hands of other narcissists, and I've spoken about this some years ago, resulted in him experiencing disapproval and loss of work. Of course, only a few days ago, I provided a video explaining how Amber Heard would react to this, that it would ignite her fury. Of course, although somebody has stated that it was a wounding, Layla Loughlin, it isn't a wounding. It's challenge fuel because she's being spoken about in the context of the claim. Therefore, it challenges her innate need for control, but she's provided fuel at the same time. Of course, Heard has already released a statement stating as follows, The disappointment I feel today is beyond words. I'm heartbroken that the mountain of evidence still was not enough to stand up to the disproportionate power, influence, and sway of my ex-husband. And therefore, what she's stating there is, I'm disappointed rather than angry, that I'm heartbroken, pity play, the mountain of evidence, the delusion maintained in her world that there was a huge amount of evidence demonstrating that she was being abused, and that she's expressing, in effect, disbelief with regard to the fact that it wasn't enough to stand up to the disproportionate power, influence, and sway of my ex-husband. What she's maintaining there is, I'm still being abused, and I was abused in that courtroom because he's got more power, more influence, and more sway. Again, although she said, I am not a victim, her victim mentality shines through once again. She continued with, I'm even more disappointed with what this verdict means for other women. Cognitive empathy, believing that she cares about other people. It is a setback. It sets back the clock to a time when a woman who spoke up and spoke out could be publicly shamed and humiliated. It sets back the idea that violence against women is to be taken seriously. This exhibits her grandiosity and her cognitive empathy by saying, I didn't really do this for me. I did it for all of the women here that were abused. What she fails to realize, of course, is that the jury has not set it back. She has. She has set it back as a consequence of basically being the lady that cried wolf. Now, we know that Johnny Depp has some rather unpleasant behaviors, and as a consequence of his own narcissistic, and I emphasize the word narcissistic for the hard of understanding out there, that does not mean he's a narcissist. And it was evident in some of the comments that people don't understand the difference. That his narcissistic behaviors are not very pleasant to be on the receiving end of. But that did not equate to him abusing. She has set matters back because now it will mean that many people will just say to those that do issue a plea or a statement that they are being abused, that people might think, are you doing an Amber Heard? And this is the difficulty. There is no doubt, of course, that there are those of my kind who abuse. Within a relationship, invariably, where there is abuse, there is a narcissist. It was brought to my attention that some nobody on YouTube had actually stated that there is no research that demonstrates that MPD means that somebody abuses, which is probably one of the dumbest statements I have ever seen written. But it's also the fact, of course, that because where a narcissist believes that they have been abused, believes that they are the victim, and therefore accuses another person of being the abuser, and then they are found not to be believed, having played that huge victim card, other genuine victims may well find it more difficult to be believed. So once again, it's the narcissists, my kind, that are fucking it up for all of you. We abuse you, and then there are those of our kind who believe that they are the one that is being abused, cry abuse, get it wrong, and then mean that those of you who are genuinely being abused may be less likely to be believed. But returning to Heard's statement, she stated, I believe Johnny's attorneys succeeded in getting the jury to overlook the key issue of freedom of speech and ignore evidence that was so conclusive that we won in the United Kingdom. Note, it's nothing to do with my ridiculous evidence and the lies that I told that meant that I lost. Oh no, her narcissism is not going to let her admit that. Instead, it's somebody else's fault. It's Johnny's attorneys. It's their fault. They hoodwinked the jury by causing them to overlook freedom of speech, because I was using that as freedom of speech in what I was saying, although, of course, I've not been believed. And she continues saying, I'm sad I lost this case, but I'm sadder still that I seem to have lost a right I thought I had as an American to speak freely and openly. This statement is just conclusive, or rather is indicative of her narcissism. She accepts that she does not accept that she's at fault. It's other people's fault. The jury, Johnny's attorneys, There's a mountain of evidence that hasn't been believed that she couldn't succeed against his disproportionate power, influence, and sway. That she continues to adopt the victim mentality. And it does so in this immediate statement. When the jury provided their verdict, of course, as it went against her, it was not possible for her to assert control directly by running over them and grappling them to the ground, all 7 of them, and saying, I'm now going to take an amber turd on each of your heads. She could not assert control in that way. Instead, her narcissism has directed her to remain quiet as she sat there with sad face adopted, pity play, and then thereafter has sought to assert control through the statement that has been issued, which is basically part pity play, part blame shifting, part provocation, denial, an inability to accept that she lost because basically she told lies, that she lost because her evidence did not come up to proof. Interestingly, of course, many people in the legal field have expressed the view that Depp wouldn't be able to discharge the burden of proof because he would have to demonstrate that she acted maliciously. And of course, those that would know that she's a narcissist would know that, of course, her behavior, although she doesn't know this, is naturally underpinned by malice, that it drives her to have issued that op-ed in the first place. I wonder what it works out per word that is going to cost her. And, of course, will Elon Musk jump in and bail her out? I've no idea as to her financial circumstances and whether the aggregate bill of 13 million big ones is going to cause her a substantial problem. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next. Now that Depp has been vindicated as not being abuser, will he get his career back? Or will people still distance themselves from him? One issue that he has is that whilst he has won his case, a lot of unsavory information came out on both sides. And it's not the case that he's whiter than white. So he certainly won in the court of a public opinion. He was well ahead in those stakes earlier, and he succeeded in the legal court. But it still remains to be seen whether the studios will return to him, given the unedifying spectacle that has rolled out. As for Heard, well, I suppose she could give acting classes. Well, no, that's not going to work, is it? As ultimately, she's a shit actress. She will go and find somebody who will ultimately believe her. And whether she has to go and do Sucky for Chucky or doing some straight to TV roles, as you can't do straight to video roles these days, then accordingly, it might be the case that there's a new arrival on OnlyFans. This won't be completely over. There will be aftershocks like an earthquake. And I understand that Johnny Depp is currently in Newcastle in the United Kingdom. So no doubt he's getting pissed up with some Geordies who are all going, why aye man, can he lush like? Proper mint win the court there. Why aye Johnny, have a bottle of Rune down the tune. And he will undoubtedly be enjoying himself. Maybe he will have a mega pint this evening. So there we are with the verdict, and it behooved me to pass comment upon that. I can see that you're there burning up the live chat, so let's mosey across and see Arch. Is this HG's real voice? It certainly is. Janelle Espinoza tells us that people are crazy. I think you mean crazy. Elon Musk, if Mel Gibson can, then Johnny can. I see. John Doe offers the view the narcissist that Amber is will burn down what she has left fighting this decision. Well, quite possibly she might go forward and try and appeal the decision. I suspect her lawyers will advise her not to do so, but whether that manages to stop the narcissist in her tracks remains to be seen. Patan, thank you for the compliment about the accent there. Yes, and Bailey Brown, or perhaps I should say Bailey Brown-like, also observing the brilliance of the Ultra's accent. So, John Doe thinks that she's going to be a high-end hooker at most. Careful, that might be viewed as a defamatory statement, and you could find yourself in a courtroom near where you are. Have you got some insurance, John Doe? The herd might be crapping in your bed soon. Purser asks, shifting gears from Johnny and Amber, did the grand design influence your academic and professional paths? No, it did not. Certainly not the academic. In terms of professional, no. My professional occupation has segued very neatly what I need to do in respect of that design. Patan asked, didn't I read today that she's previously been a stripper? Well, I don't know where you read that. It's not information that has come across my bows. But there we are. Jenny Roy also loves my accent as well. And some hearts for the Ultra as well there. Thank you very much indeed. First name, surname. Have you checked out Tracy Barbie yet? No idea who Tracy Barbie is. Maybe you need to provide me with a little more information and context about that particular name. So, I've offered my observations about the verdict and the reaction and statement of Amber Heard. I'll probably pump out a separate video in the course of tomorrow for the people that haven't come and joined us in this live stream. So bring forth your questions, and there we are. Sweet as perfection. You'll be a great academic, but they won't pay you what you deserve. I know. Academia, tightwad, you see, and the Ultra does have a standard of living to maintain. Also, academia is not the exciting environment that I need to alleviate the boredom that I feel on a regular basis. Maria Theresa Hughes observed she could be a yacht girl. Yes, indeed. Dot Hacker. First time catching your stream. Love your videos. Thank you very much. Mecha, whoa, how long have we been live? 15 minutes and 52 seconds. Shiaj, which person will you analyze next? Who would you like me to analyze next? I know in the queue, Justin Trudeau needs to be done. And, of course, Kanye or Ye or whatever he's called this week, and Kim, large ass, also have to be put under the Tudor scope. Many people, of course, regularly request, HG, what do you think about this person? Analyze that person. And, of course, prostitute to views that I am, whilst there are some interesting people to be analysed, I also have to balance the fact that I put a huge amount of work, as you know, into these analyses, and it's got to be worth it to me in terms of the views also. Jocko Spillink. Might Marilyn Manson versus Evan Rachel Wood prove good fodder? Potentially. I was thinking that only 2 hours and 10 minutes ago, that I was considering that I might turn my gaze onto those two next. But the thing is, Evan Rachel Wood is an android, isn't she? So it'd be a little bit easy, really, to say that maybe she's the narcissist in that relationship because she's robotic. So Dolores might prove too easy to analyze. Alison just arrived, still not clear who was awarded what and why. Well, I'm sure every news channel on the planet's webpage will assist you in finding those answers. But quite simply, Johnny Depp was awarded $10 million compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive damages. He won his libel case over the article in which Heard said that she was a victim of abuse, thus suggesting that he was an abuser. And she succeeded with regard to one of her strands of the claim, suggesting that Depp had defamed Heard through his attorney, and she was awarded $2 million compensatory, nada punitive damages. Quite a distance away from the $50 million and the $100 million. John Doe, thank you very much for that donation. Come on, you miserable bastards, get the Dirts Fund flowing. HG, I'd like to personally thank you for the hundreds of hours of enjoyment that you've given me while riding my bike and listening about the gift that keeps on giving, Meghan Markle. You're very welcome, John Doe, and thank you for your contribution to the Dirts Slush Fund. Lee, what about doing Britney? What about doing Britney? Probably quite a wild shag, one would have thought. Serena, are all 14 of Marilyn Manson's accusers narcissists? Well, I think what you're trying to suggest there maybe that because there's 14 of them, they can't possibly be. Or maybe you are asking me genuinely whether all 14 are actually narcissists. The only one that I know that has accused him that I've actually kept an eye on is Dolores, Evan Rachel Wood. Perhaps you'll tell me who the other ones are, and then I can look at all of that. Sweetest Perfection votes for Marilyn Manson. Karen observes, quite correctly, a middle or lesser narc won't learn a thing. They'll just think they could do it better. That's right. Sweetest Perfection. Oh, please don't tell me Manson is an empath now. Well, you've spoiled it now, Sweetest Perfection, so there's no point me undertaking that analysis. For the heart of understanding, I am not saying that Marilyn Manson is an empath, just in case there might be the occasional dimwit listening in who believes that that is what I have said. Joanne McAvoy has finished work, and she's glad that she's caught the live stream. Joanne McAvoy, we're pleased to have you here. Persa, a look at Elon Mollusk. Now, Elon Musk, don't be naughty. Call him by his proper name. After all, that's what I do. I would never objectify somebody by, for instance, calling them such and such his wife, would I? Jenny Roy, what kind of drink is Dirts? Not Dirts, Dirts. Deutz. It's champagne. You know the Ultra has a gargle of champagne first thing in the morning and last thing at night. It keeps him fit as a fiddle, with glowing skin and twinkly-eyed. Ista. Hi. Is the fact that Johnny Depp was not at the verdict, but at a musical tour, the manifestation of his narcissistic traits? Yes. There's the arrogance of it. I mean, for instance, it might be, of course, that he had a prior commitment and decided that he had to attend to it, but I suspect not. It's quite basically, right, that's over, I'll go and do something else now, and I don't need to be in the courtroom to receive the verdict. Fitness magnitude, Pamela Gilbert. You're so brilliant, HG. How do you feel about these evil globalist leaders who want to destroy us? Well, what you've got to remember is that the destruction of individuals is actually ancillary to what they're seeking to do. The fact that you can't afford your heating or afford to eat, and therefore may well die of starvation or hypothermia, is not something that concerns our kind. And they are not pursuing your destruction, but rather pursuing their alternative agendas, which just happens to result in inflation going skyward, of there not being particular foods available for people, the supply chain being affected, and so on and so forth. So take, for instance, as I've done the series on Vladimir Putin and his invasion of the Ukraine has resulted in consequences in terms of availability of sunflower oil, wheat, and so on and so forth. He didn't invade thinking, I'm going to commandeer as much fucking wheat and sunflower oil as I can lay my hands on. No, but the consequence of his actions results in problems for other people, not that he cares. So in terms of the globalists that you talk about, they will be following their own separate agendas, not working in tandem. There is no spectre meeting of all of these individuals because they're more likely to work against one another than work with one another. That's the nature of our kind. Cocoa Head. It's interesting. Is that because your O is on the toot, or is it because you like the Cocoa Pops? What do you think Elon is? Well, I know. But in due course, I'll publish the outcome. Swinging Anchor. Hello. Hello to you. Mary Shirkin. Hello, HG. Given the recent verdict in the Depp trial, do you think there is a chance that Amber Heard will be charged with perjury? No, I don't think so. Tech oneself. Heard did well looking down and leaving silently, lucky by being free and not in jail. What often happens with these situations is that invariably, because it's a civil trial rather than a criminal trial, the issue of perjury is often overlooked. And instead, it's just a case of often saying, well, recollections were confused, information wasn't remembered correctly. Particularly, there's no judgment has been handed down, and it's a decision from a jury. It might be the case, the system could be different, of course, in that jurisdiction, but it might be the case that there is the capacity to raise some kind of complaint based upon what has occurred, and that the relevant prosecutor, or I don't know who it would be, looks at it and says, actually, there's a case to answer here based upon what happened in the trial. Or if the presiding judge doesn't do anything about it, then that's the end of the matter. It's often the case that in some trials, the presiding judge, certainly in the United Kingdom, may make a recommendation for there to be investigation of perverting the course of justice or perjury, or in the context of a particular trial. It tends to be, though not exclusively, but tends to be more the case with criminal trials. Mr. HG, all right. Your voice seems to have a little sad tone tonight. That's you projecting a sad tone onto me? Not at all. Mel Bennett explains that she's a lawyer and a survivor of violence and rape from a partner. Amber was definitely the abuser, can smell the bleepers. Well, I prefer looking at the evidence rather than smelling it, but there we are. Purser asks, have you noticed a shift in the overall mix of narcissists from your everyday observations and consultations? Are there more mid-rangers now, fewer elites, more somatics? Well, somatics anyway are the largest cadre, and they still remain to be the case. And with regard to mid-rangers, they are the larger group to begin with, so I wouldn't necessarily say that there has been an increase or shift in the overall mix. No, I haven't particularly noticed that. Sapphire B, thank you very much for your donation. Much appreciated. Let's get that Dirts Fund catered to. Brando, is Brian Ferry from Roxy Music a narcissist? Well, late at night he parks the car and he takes his place in a singles bar. Lumber up, limbo down, lost embrace, and stumble around. I say go, she says yes. If you dim the lights, you can guess the rest. Oh, catch that dirt. Love is the drug. A great song there. But is Brian Ferry from Roxy Music a narcissist? You'll have to use Know the Narcissist, which you can find in the Knowledge Vault. Cyprian Voslaban, is there something that all narcs fear, besides you included? Well, as you know, I'm a narcissistic psychopath, which is a hybrid, of course, of the narcissist and the psychopath. And therefore, I don't experience fear. I don't experience anxiety. I was going through this in detail in a consultation only this afternoon. But narcissists experience fear. Pure narcissists do. They feel anxiety as well. So they will experience fear in a way in two senses. The first, if somebody's coming along and offering to give them a good shoeing or to shove barbed wire up their backside. They'll be frightened of physical assault. They could be frightened of financial ruin. But what's also underpinning that, of course, is the threat to control that's posed. So although they don't see it in terms of control, they will recognize through their narcissism unconsciously that those acts threaten control. And one of the results that the narcissism will generate is fear, because fear is a motivating factor to the narcissist to do something. So the narcissist might fight out of fear, thus asserting control directly. Or if a walnut, shriveled, bald, mealy-mouthed mid-ranger, particularly middle mid-range type B, invariably soils his kecks and goes running away from the problem, which is an assertion of control by withdrawal. So yes, narcissists fear. They essentially fear that loss of control, but it doesn't always necessarily manifest as a fearful response to it. It might manifest as anger, contempt. They can fear the apprehension of physical violence. Karen explains it would be the district attorney in Fairfax bringing perjury in this case. I doubt they will. The verdict already shows she lied if you have half a brain. Thank you for that clarification. Joanne McAvoy, do you think Amber Heard will try to pin anything else on Johnny Depp? Well, she won't accept that he's not an abuser. She won't accept that she's not a victim. And there's always a risk that she'll continue to bang on in this way. Of course, whether anybody will now listen to her is another matter. But unfortunately, there's always a few clowns out there that will listen to people, won't they? Silvana Laveria, your screen is pitch black. Is it? Goodness me. No, it's not. All you're seeing is into my heart. This is Tudor Cam. And what I've done is I've attached the camera to my chest, having bored a hole into it. And what you can see is right into my heart. So although it's black, you're actually seeing something. It's the darkness of the malevolence that sits within deep of the ultra. John Doe, boy, would I love to know about you, HG. Well, you can listen to all my videos and read my books and read my blog articles. It tells you fucking shitloads about who I am. I picture you in an English tower, overseeing your minions and enjoying the better things in life while thinking about your next move against someone. Well, you're not too wide of the mark, really, with that observation there, John Doe. Now, let's see what else have we got here. It jumped. So, I'll just scroll back a little bit. There we are. Found my place again. Jolly good. Marzilla, Marseille. I was in Marseille 3 years ago in the old port area. Some lovely restaurants as you walk out. You face the harbour and walk round to the left and out along the coastline. Found a couple of jolly decent restaurants there. Hello, Mr. Tutor. Well, I'm a tutor, but it's Tudor, thank you. I listen to you every day. Jolly good, thank you for doing so. I've learned so much from you. I'm pleased that's the case. Copy our test one, copy our test one. I really need to do that in a different voice, don't I? Copy our test one, come in. Ever taken LSD? No. Or DMT, Mr. HG? No. Therefore, I can't tell you how it was. Wheezy observes, I noticed a dramatic increase in mid-tangers to the day a couple of years ago. Mid-tangers. Intriguing. I wonder what mid-tangers are. John Doe, you'd better have your pants on. Who are you talking to, John Doe? Have you got your big boy's pants on? That's what we need to know about. Swinging A's encourage everyone to slap that like button. I concur. Show it some emotional damage. Jat, HG, do you think Amber will keep trying to frame Johnny? Quite possibly, yes. She will certainly complain to anybody who will listen about her treatment. She's not going to shut up. Lost Paddle, have you had professional voice training such as theatre? No, I haven't. Do you think society is becoming increasingly narcissistic? Yes. If so, at what rate? 2.05 narc units. Legcal38. Why is the eye contact in certain situations so important to a narcissist? Control again. Correct. Control, and also the drawing of fuel, because the look in your eyes provides us with fuel. Vicky Miller, with identical twins, could one be a narcissist and one not? Yes. And imagine if you conjoin twins. What a fucker that would be. Fijuoni, I was wondering if you could tell us how a mid-range narcissist would behave towards that intimate partner source who lost a parent left to handle the funeral in his state. It would depend at what stage it occurred. If it was during the golden period or a respite period, which is a mini form of golden period, they would be supportive. They would give the image of support, exhibiting false compassion. They would go around milking the situation to demonstrate how kind and caring they are. That they would mourn the loss of the father or mother-in-law, talking about how much they cared about them. In devaluation, it would, of course, result in wounding, and they would respond in a malign way, saying, you never really liked your dad. Why are you making so much of a fuss about what happens to the funeral? Revision of history, of course. I would need to make it about them by lashing out as against their partner. They may well say, what are you crying for? He died 3 days ago. You should be over it by now. And why haven't you made my tea? Oh, I see you're still banging on about flower arrangements for your father. It, of course, would all depend upon the type of mid-range narcissist in terms of whether they would be aggressive with it, more likely with the lower mid-ranger, haughty and superior about it, upper mid-ranger, or being passive-aggressive and sort of sitting quietly and saying, don't mind me, I suppose dinner will cook itself, you get round to it all in good time. Janelle Espinosa, if only all narcissistic psychopaths were so entertaining. Well, that's the thing, you see, it's a weapon. Silvana Laveria, I'm feeding from your brain and turning more clever, I would say. Am I narcissistic or an empathic? Well, judging from what you've written, you're not turning more clever, although it might be that English is your second language. I'm sure you'll let me know after me taking the piss out of you slightly there. Who cares? Hello, you didn't even know there was a live stream. No, funnily enough, who cares? It's not the case that I'm going to ring you up and explain to you that there is a live stream. Although the other evening you did inadvertently call me by mistake. Good of you to do that. Whilst I was preparing dinner, but it mattered not. Maybe you didn't even realize you'd done it. Maybe you unconsciously wanted to reach out to the ultra. Julia Slack, do you think Amber's career is over? I think she's got significant problems ahead of her, and I think that she may find somebody who'll be sympathetic to her. Ultimately, as I've said before, there's always some kind of clown that can be found. My Toby Toaster is explaining that both have issued Instagram statements. There we are. I will perhaps look at that in due course for the purposes of observing further. Ilan Nuaz, HG, I'm interested in seeing you do an analysis on Elizabeth Holmes. Yes, that would be a good one, wouldn't it? And I suppose I would have to do it in a particularly deep voice in order to sound like Elizabeth Holmes. Karen, LMAO, the half-brain comment wasn't at UHG. Better fucking not have been, otherwise I'll find you and I'll hunt you down and I'll flay the skin from your body. Savannah Flavia, I love you already. Well, that's generally the case. Cheeky Contessa, I love Brit's humour, thank you very much. Cyprian sees some light in the right corner, it says ultra. Indeed it does. Indeed it does. Susan Durr offers to be emotionally whole. Our experiences must be boundless. Our range of feelings complete. Deep. Olivia asks, hi HG, would there be differences in relationship with narcissist and psychopath who's not a narcissist? Yes, there would be. And I'm going to refrain from going into further detail because, as I've told you, what I will be creating is a series. One about the narcissist, pure narcissist, another about the pure psychopath, and another about the narcissist psychopath. There's a package that's being created for that to enable you to understand the similarities and differences between all three to enhance your understanding. D Naomi77, I just love you, HG. Thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoy all your work. Excellent. I've recently watched the Crying Game series. So fascinating. Yes, it is, isn't it? Provide you with that insight. I know many people like me to do all of the famous and infamous people and analyze them, which is of importance and it extends the reach. But there really are some absolute gems amongst all of the other stuff. And I'd encourage those of you who perhaps only know me through my work and talking about Harry's wife and talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and Hillary Baldwin and Alec Baldwin and so on and so forth. Take a mosey through the 2,700 or so videos I've created, and you'll find some absolute nuggets of beautiful information about me and some absolute platinum-coated information about narcissism. Really is Aladdin's cave of wonderfulness. Amor fati, lipo fati, and a lipo fati fati lipon. If you are attracted to HG, you are still at risk. He is extremely seductive. He knows it. Sure fucking do. Oh yeah, baby. Let's listen to the stick. Yeah, the stick. Feed me some merching. The stick will be returning. John Depp